us now, Democratic Congressman from North Carolina and member of the Blue Dog Coalition, Representative Heath Shuler.
Heath, we're going to talk about football in a second, but the Blue Dogs are up in New York City, and this time it's personal. What are you doing up here?
Well, obviously, you know, your show is here, Joe and Mika, so we want to come see you guys.
Exactly.
That's why we want to come to New York.
There you go. See, I knew the Blue Dogs were smarter than your average bear.
No, I mean,
what message are you guys spreading?
Well, the message is, I mean, we've got an incredible members that are coming by. Our Blue Dog Coalition, we have 19 of our 26 members that are here in New York on our Issues Conference. We have Bill Clinton coming in. We have our mayor here in New York, Mayor Bloomberg's come, and we have an incredible task of we're going to talk about business. I mean, far too often, Democrats don't talk about business enough. So we're going to have our business group come in, and we're going to continue to talk about jobs and the economy. I mean, something that Blue Dogs have stressed from the very beginning, talked about it well before it became a popular view about how we get our country back on the right track.
Governor, are Blue Dogs good for the Democratic Party?
Absolutely, and the point Heath is making is a great point. We were talking backstage about the fact that the D-N.C. says we're not going to take corporate money to help with conventions and things like that. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. First of all, corporations are not our enemy. We understand that. They do sometimes make abuses, but they've got to be controlled, but they're not our enemy. They're a very important part of this country, and we've got to keep a dialogue going, and the Blue Dogs have the right idea.
Mark Halpern, the Blue Dogs were ignored for 2 years. They got gutted in the 2010 elections. What's the future?
It's a more intimate group now. Well, I mean, there's a lot of focus on the divisions in the Republican Party, but the Democratic Party has to decide what kind of party it wants to be. The president speaking at the Chamber of Commerce today, making a concerted push to reach out more to business, and I think probably going to be looking to the Blue Dogs for coalition on some of these big issues like trade and tax reform and entitlement reform, where they may find more friendlier support from Blue Dogs than from the liberals.
Hey, Heath, after the 2010 election, does my friend Nancy Pelosi get it now?
Yeah, I really don't think so. I mean, we went through this whole running. I ran against her for the minority leader, and we still have not had that connection between the Blue Dog members and leadership.
Is she not reaching out to you?
No, there's been really no communication whatsoever. Steny Hoyer has always done a very good job of reaching out to a lot of the Blue Dog members. Maybe he's the guy from leadership.
So let me ask you this. Bill Clinton's coming to talk to the Blue Dogs. Mike Bloomberg's talking to the Blue Dogs. Steny Hoyer's talking to the Blue Dogs. Has Nancy Pelosi come to any of your meetings to talk to you guys?
No, it's very rare that she would come to any of our meetings and have conversation. I think that has really been a task that Steny has been very good at, having the communication with the Blue Dogs, you know, understanding the districts that we come. I mean, be quite frank, you know, Steny's the only one that can come to our district. He and Clyburn can come to our district, but other than that, outside of leadership, that's really it.
Let me ask you, who are you ideologically closer to, if you just look at the span of their life's work, Nancy Pelosi or Ronald Reagan?
Ronald Reagan, I would say, yes.
Nancy Pelosi or George W. Bush?
Neither one.
Nancy Pelosi or John?
Now, is that senior or junior?
Take your pick. Senior.
Neither, more senior. Yeah. Neither one with junior.
But you feel pretty disconnected, as do the other Blue Dogs, from your leadership in the House. What does that mean?
Well, I think that's the reason we're here, to be able to talk about what the Blue Dogs actually can mean and can help our country. We're not about the ideologues of either political party. We're talking about how we can bring our country back to the middle, where we need to be, and start with compromise. Very similar to what happened in the lame duck session. You were seeing compromise, and I think the Blue Dogs represents 80% of America, and you look at the political structure on both sides, I think they only represent 10% on each side of the American people. Blue Dogs represent 80% of America.
Hey, Governor, what is it about, like, Tip O'Neill, for instance? Very liberal guy, Tip. And he had a lot of liberal lieutenants with him. But how was he able to be as progressive as he was and yet hold all of those conservative Democrats together? And yet this House Democratic caucus can't do that.
Well, number one, personality. I mean, personality counts for so much, and you know that in politics and everything else in life. But secondly, Tip understood the famous quote, all politics is local. Heath Shuler in his district has to represent the people of his district. I've heard you say that about Scott Brown.
People like Murtha understood that.
Murtha understood, but I've heard you say that about Scott Brown. Republicans can't expect Scott Brown to vote like he's from Idaho.
Right.
And this idea that they're running someone against Scott Brown is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Idiotic.
And Heath can't he has to reflect the views of the people from his district. But I think the reason...
I'm sure you like Nancy Pelosi.
I do like Nancy very much.
Why doesn't Nancy get that?
I don't know. And I will say, though, the Blue Dogs, I think, are really the hope for building a realistic response to the deficit. I mean, somebody on our side has to stand up, and if the president goes there, and support the president and say he's right. Look, it's painful. Nobody wants to take any level of benefits away from people. Gosh, we all want to be loved in politics. That's why we got into it in the first place. But we have to do the job we have to do. And I think the Blue Dogs get it. And they can give the president a level of cover. And again, the great thing, Heath, is if we do this right, we reach out to the Republican Party and say, okay, put up or shut up. You've been talking about deficit reduction for so long. Here's the path. If you don't follow this path, shame on you.
It may be the best opportunity we've ever had,
right?
Because we do have, the Republicans have the majority in the House. The Senate can be mixed, and we don't have the 60 votes there. This is where the president can really step in and say, look, I'm going to align myself with the Blue Dogs, or say I'm taking their advice, and we need to get control of Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and defense. I mean, we do really have to look at the big four. Yeah, Allen's right, Simpson's right, and along with Erskine Bowles, they actually have it right.
Although we don't know about the green weenie.
I don't understand that.
Or the sparrow bells. So, Mark Halpin, this is what for the life of me, I don't understand. And maybe you can help me understand this. Explain this to me like I'm fourth grade. No, you have the Democrats. Back in the 90s, when I campaigned for Republicans across the South and Midwest, it was easy pickings. Right. You just go and you talk to a group, and you just wipe those Democratic opponents out. It was easy. But then Rahm Emanuel comes along. And Howard Dean, actually, also, was who said, we're not going to give up the issues of gods, gays, and guns anymore in the South or the Midwest. We're going to be a more diverse party. And Democrats take control in 2006 with liberals and Blue Dogs. And then they've spent the past 4 years completely undermining everything Rahm and Howard Dean did, trying to find more moderate Democrats. And yet the leadership in the House, if you listen to Heath, they still don't get it.
Well, we'll see when they've got
this. I mean, this is if you want to be in the majority.
Right.
They don't get it.
Well, look, they've got 2 years when the country saw them as governing in too liberal a way. And they recruited in a way that wasn't as effective as the previous cycles where they did well. If they want to be a centrist party, they can be, because the Republicans right now are still struggling for a message that makes them a centrist party. There's room there. The president and the Blue Dogs are going to have to find common cause and lead.
Hey, Heath, you obviously played a little bit of football. Tell me, are you with the players in this upcoming negotiation?
I think both sides have to look at it. We're in a recession. Millionaires versus billionaires, there's no sympathy from the American people.
Okay.
That's good. Still ahead, the New Yorker's David